There you go. We Talk Weeklies after the talk on WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful is definitely in the build. Hold on, let me make sure your mic is on. Give me one more again.
Classy Lady
There she go.
Sparkle.
Classy Lady Sparkle is definitely in the building. So dynamic interview, right?
Excellent. Yes.
Excellent.
Anytime you're doing
Yeah.
for where you like your own backyard,
Yeah.
is top tier to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like the conversation about the young men, and we got a gentleman that's about to jump on. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the men too, the young men that, he comes across because he's in entertainment. So he been doing a lot of stuff, right? I'm excited about this interview coming up. You ready for him?
I'm ready.
You want to tell me who do we have today? Who do we have today?
We have Julian Griffith, a multifaceted, talented, known for his passion for R&B and acting, is making a powerful return to the spotlight, blending soulful music with a dynamic screen presence. Committed to roles that align with his integrity and future aspirations, he aims to collaborate with artists like Lee Bridges and Childish Gambino while preparing for his upcoming holiday film, Christmas in Chicago. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Mr. Julian Griffith.
How's it going, everybody?
How are you, my friend? How are you?
Hello.
I'm good, and yourself? Thank you for having me.
Those are some big names we were naming.
Oh yeah, big inspirations.
Fantastic. So let's jump right into it, man. Let's talk about the film project right now because that's a big deal, right? Let's talk about that project that you about to launch and some good old stuff around that. Let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the upcoming film is called Christmas in Chicago, starring Jennifer Freeman, Michael Copine, and myself, of course. It's a comedy TV Christmas film. Based on, it's Chicago and y'all from Philly, so you already know
Yeah.
how cold it is, so and the Windy City, right? Exactly. So we don't get, too many movies, Christmas movies, for Chicago. Most Chicago projects in general are typically, no knock at any of the projects, but like, the Power Books and
Yeah.
the Shy and everything. So this brings holiday cheer with some comedic timing that I kind of spearhead a lot of in the film, and it's set for this upcoming holiday season. I do not know which network is going to be on yet, so once I get that information, then I will be able to announce that to everybody. But right now, it's to be determined.
Okay. No, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the beginning though, and what got you into not only acting but music. Because I want to talk a little bit about all that, because when it comes to the talented folk, right, the multi-talented folk, us as our beautiful blackness, right.
Yes.
I always say that most of us just don't have one talent, right, because we have to work harder than everybody else, right, and so we always have something else and these other arms, tentacles of talent, as I say. So let's talk about your music first, right? And then talk about, all right, so what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it your acting and then music, or was it music that turned into acting? How did all that work out?
So actually, it was the acting first. I started going on auditions when I was 3 years old. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, well, I'm 34 now. Ooh, I hate saying that. So, 30 plus years of auditioning up until this day. But I'm an identical twin, and my
Ah,
mother got both of us into acting at the same time. And I had been auditioning for like projects such as like Losing Isaiah and I mean The Fan with Wesley Snipes and Robert De
yeah,
Niro, and I didn't book my first acting project until I was 10 years old, which you all know was hardball.
right.
But it was the acting, and once I got into that, back in the day, everybody wanted to be a Disney kid, and in order to be a Disney kid, you had to be that triple threat. So
Yeah.
I was trying to make sure I was on point just in case I ever got the opportunity to be on the Disney network, but I never did. But I was making sure I was prepared though.
Right.
You named some classics right there. The
Yeah.
Losing
Yeah,
Isaiah.
yeah,
You also mentioned that you're very selective about roles. Now you got like Sinbad who says he's not gonna cuss. You got other actors who say they're not gonna play a pimp or those type of things. Were there roles that you were offered that you turned down? And tell us why you're selective about the roles you take on.
um, yes, there were a few different roles. I'm not going to name them, just just to be on the safe side. But I am very selectful and mindful of any role I take because I'm that second option that you mentioned. I don't mind cursing in a film as long as it's tasteful, not overkill. But I don't want to play a pimp. Again, unless it has depth to the role. I don't like stereotypical roles. So most of the roles that I turn down, or I let my agent know, hey, I'm not. Don't even submit me for these. I don't want to play dice player number one. I don't want to play thug number two. Like I don't. I was like, yeah. If I was just chasing a check, then I'm gonna audition. I'm gonna take it. Most likely I'm gonna get them because I got some skin in the game. But it's like, what does that do for my career and the progressiveness that I'm aiming for? So, and then there's other auditions that they didn't put the money in my face, and it just didn't line up with my character, my integrity, and my moral compass. And I'm a girl dad. I got a 4-year-old daughter, and I want to make sure that for my daughter Jolie and my future children, that when they see daddy's work, that they're like, Daddy, I am so proud of you. You were so good in that. And I want it to be memorable, not because daddy did it for a check, but because daddy showed how much depth and how focused on his craft he really is. So I just don't, I mean, I'm not knocking anybody that does it, but I've been in it too long and I've turned down enough where it's like, hey, I don't need to act. I want to act. And when you have that need to act, a lot of people do desperate things in desperate times. And I thank God that I've never been in that situation.
So, you mentioned you thank God. Is there something like in your upbringing or something that just made you say, "Hey, this is not what I want to do," and I know you want to do this for your daughter and all that, but even before your daughter came along, was there something in your upbringing that made you feel that way?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I was raised in the church. So, uh,
That's why I asked
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I was raised in the church, and I got my pastors in my current church. They're all on my social media, and I work with children within my business that I run, and in the public and motivational speaking that I do. So because of that, it's more. I just my dad, my late father, would always tell me, he was like, "Hey, if it don't feel right, it doesn't sound right, walk away." And
Mm,
that wasn't just in the opportunities, that was even in relationships. He was like, if it don't feel right, walk away. And so I've adapted that into my everyday life and my decision making. So thanks to my mom and my late father, who both kept us in the church and kept us spiritually grounded, I I can't do it. It just when your spirit tells you, and you sense it, and your discernment is going off like, I don't like that, Julian. No, that's not for you.
mm,
Then I'm like, you're right, spirit. Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think now there's so many different things going on in Hollywood where it's like, you know, things happen and then 20 years later you got to explain yourself for something you did or something you either were maybe indirectly a part
Hmm.
of or around somebody that did something. So yeah, I totally agree with that and I think that's admirable, for you to
Thank you.
take that stance. Yeah, yeah.
And just to a point that you just made, even with that, like the documentary, Quiet on Set. A lot of a few of those people on that documentary are my friends I grew up with. So
Mm,
I knew about the stories and everything before they even came out on the documentary. So and shout out to them for being courageous enough to even tell their stories and everything, because and a lot of people don't know that I actually was up for one of the roles on all that when all of that stuff went down, and but I didn't get it. But clearly
mm,
that was God making
mm.
sure that He steered me clear away from it. So,
Wow.
and
So
one of
how
the moms, oh, I'm sorry, go
mm.
ahead, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. No, what were you
One
saying?
of the moms still thanks my mom to this day and says, "Thank you so much, Janita, for keeping like making them take a break from acting because her child who was on the show went through it and was also on the documentary and was like, you did the right thing by forcing them to graduate high school and then deciding to jump back into acting as an adult." So she always still thanks my mom to this day that we
Mm,
avoided it.
yeah. How does that make you feel? Like knowing that, your friends and people that you grew up with and you saw them take certain roles and they went through this. How does that make you feel?
Man, empathetic definitely. Because and I when I saw the documentary and everything, I text them and was like, love you and proud of you for being able to express yourself. I know how tough and difficult it was, and those times that they mentioned on the documentary strained some relationships between parent and child, and I knew about those as well. So the documentary, and it shows you how God works. The documentary brought that person and their mom back together for the first time in a while when they did
Mm.
that documentary. So it came back full circle. So it makes me feel relieved for myself, but I feel for them and the experiences that they had back in the day.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Also, when certain doors close, sometimes they're closing for protection.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You have mentioned about acting and then R&B. Like, how do you have those two worlds come together? As from flipping from R&B into acting.
Um, I really, so I've always been able to sing. It was always like, oh, I can do it. It's fun. I do it passively, and it'd be something that I might dabble in every now and then. But doing musical theater and things like that, where you get to express yourself differently than in TV and film, that a lot of people, if they didn't know that I was able to actually sing when they saw me doing musical theater and when I released a few singles and things like that, they were like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. It's like, yeah, I'm not just, playing a cop on Chicago PD, fireman, or whatever it is. Like I want to be a Disney kid. I jokingly say that all the time, and I'm like, we wanted to be Disney kids. So um, it's usually a shock to people who know me. Um, and then when they hear it, they're like, that's not you. And I'm like, no, it is. But I don't do it regularly. Now, my twin brother, he pursues his music full time, regularly. So I do more of the acting, and he chose the music lane, and he also does acting as a secondary career.
Have you two ever done like any duet or any collaborations working together?
No, my I want to. That's the best way I can say it.
Are y'all
I
identical
want to.
twins?
Identical twins, yes, I want to.
Wow.
You
Where
know,
is he now? Where is he now?
he's actually in Indianapolis right now preparing for a musical that he's doing.
That's
So
awesome.
but we everybody says we should. So maybe coming soon. Maybe coming soon. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
y'all gotta do
yeah. I
that.
think so.
Identical twins
Absolutely.
and both have those talents.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I know your
Ramon, if you're
mom.
watching, you heard them, right? You heard them.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, put that out there. Put that out there in the
right.
atmosphere. Yeah, I know your mom has to be super proud of herself and the hard work that she did getting you to in the industry because a lot of parents they don't support their kids or their kids' dreams the way that the kids may want. So I think that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody, shout out to my mom, and she was awesome in navigating this entire thing. And
Hmm.
I resented her for making me stop acting for a little bit, but I thank her in
Mm-hmm.
hindsight because of
Yeah.
Yeah.
the opportunities and having that spiritual foundation, that grounding. Because a lot of child actors that I was coming up with around the time, I mean, you all see them on.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's like a lot of people can't handle the word no. So
Mm.
when you're not used to it and you hear it for the first time, then you fast forward to now. That's the best way I can put it without putting people's business out there. Now you see them on social media doing God knows what. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think your mom had that discernment because it for me it was just like I guess a full circle moment because a lot of times I would wonder like why is this child actor they've turned into something else and what
Hmm.
did they go through that now all of a sudden they're either on drugs or having mental health breakdowns and that documentary just really let me know why.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So how about this professional baseball? You're just a jack of all trades.
Yes.
How'd
Oh
that
man.
come about?
Um. So I started playing baseball when I was 7, and um, that was actually my first passion, my first love.
Mm.
So when the hardball opportunity presented itself, one of my mom's friends was listening to the radio, and she called my mom, was like, Janita, you need to go ahead and take the boys down. They looking for black kids in Chicago that play baseball to be in a movie with the dude from the Matrix. And so I hadn't booked anything yet. So I was just hoping like, oh, maybe I get to play baseball in a movie, you know? And so that's how hardball came about. So people usually think I started playing baseball, but after hardball, no, I was playing baseball before. But I started at 7. Once my mom made me take a break from acting at 13 years old because I was ready. I told her to quit her job. Let's move to LA. My mama take care of us. Let's go. I'm getting all these auditions. But she made me go to high school. And she was like, you got to finish high school and then you make that decision. So I was forced, but I'm grateful that I ended up focusing more on the baseball side throughout high school. I was pretty good, you know, so got my baseball scholarships. I had offers and I went Division II, finished up NAIA. I was getting looked at by the Chicago White Sox, and I tore my UCL in my elbow, so like the ACL of the arm, you know, the Tommy John surgery, if people are familiar with baseball terms.
Yeah.
So I had that at 21 years old. I lost the White Sox interest.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't get drafted. And so I went and tried out for scouts for a month in San Antonio, Texas in 2014. And I got signed out of 100 plus hitters. I had the 11th highest batting average out of them, out of all of them. And I ended up playing in Texas. I signed 3 professional contracts. 2014 with the Fort Worth Cats in Fort Worth, Texas. Played with Julio Franco, who was one of the oldest guys to play in the major leagues. I played with him at 56 years old. And he retired from the major leagues at 48, I believe.
Wow.
And 2015, I went to Ellensburg, Washington. I tore my rotator cuff. Yeah, you know, the life of injuries, and it wasn't even planned. I was giving back, volunteering at my old high school, and I was throwing batting practice to them, and I ended up tearing my rotator cuff. And then I played in Puerto Rico in their AA, hit 488 out there, got signed in Detroit, and then when I realized my shoulder was really affecting me, the doctor told me, hey, you got to make a decision. He was like, it's hanging on by a thread. Do you want to play catch with your kids in the future when you get older? Or do you want to keep playing 6 days a week and then tear it completely and then have the surgery and you don't know how it's going to happen? So I decided to walk away in 2016. But I did sign 3 professional contracts, and I used that opportunity to actually start doing baseball and softball training. So God had a different route for me, but the credits and accolades aided in the next endeavors that I ended up pursuing after that.
What position did you play?
Oh, I'm a catcher. I'm a catcher, baby. Like, yeah. But outfield professionally, because they literally told me, hey, Julian, you're black. You run a 6'7" and a 60. Go catch the ball. I was like, you know what? You're right. I'll go catch the ball. I didn't care as long as I could play, but I've been catching since I was 11 years old. But then I was always athletic. So wasn't always athletic. I became athletic, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that because my son plays Little League right now.
Okay.
And I thought that's really dope that you play baseball. So I'm curious as to what do you think is going on now with there's not a lot of us playing. No. You know, there's not a lot of us playing in there. You know, when Negro League was around, you know, at the very least there was some interest and there was more of us playing. And it looks like we're just kind of like trickling down now. What do you think that is? What is the cause of that?
I'll say, well, it's a few things. The first aspect of it is most of the families in our communities focus on what 2 sports?
Basketball,
football,
and
and football.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's always been the out. You know, we usually dominate those games, and it doesn't take much to practice it because all you need to do is buy your son a football, buy your son a basketball, buy your daughter a basketball. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time to invest in baseball because it's more mental than physical.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to go up and hit somebody in football and then or eventually find a jump shot, everybody gets lucky, or you hit 6'6", and everybody gonna be like, hey, you're going to the league. You're going to the league, So that's how our communities are. And coming from the urban areas like Philly and like Chicago, when it comes to baseball, because we're so dominant in the basketball and football, most people don't want to touch it because they just think that, hey, most Black organizations usually aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
And in order to actually be good in baseball, you got to go train with the white kids in the suburbs, and they have the resources.
That's right.
So a lot of people are not investing in it, and a lot of kids don't want to take the time, because the hardest thing to do in any sport is hit a 80-mile-per-hour fastball.
Yeah. Small ball.
Yeah, a small ball. That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really want to take the time to do it because it takes too much time and the what do we call it, the mundane work, the behind the scenes off the tee. Nobody want to hit off the tee. You actually they don't want to do it. So Black kids in baseball, it takes too much time in order to actually become good at it. And everybody wants to play shortstop. Everybody want to be, everybody want to be a shortstop. And so it's just, I think I wish we had more in our communities. And in the professional realm, just to answer that other side of your question, we got to be super Negro in baseball. I hate saying it like that, but in professional baseball, if you aren't, you got to be 10 times better than your Caucasian counterpart. That's and it sucks to say it, but I experienced it firsthand, and I didn't think it was true until I got there. Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And I try not to talk about it as much, so I don't, because a lot of them are on my social media, but it's definitely real. You know what I mean? Like, it's the fact of me being a catcher, for example. If you watch baseball, how many Black catchers you see in the major leagues? None.
I don't see any.
None. And most people don't realize that Russell Martin was a catcher. He was Black, but he's Black and Canadian. So you got to really zoom in on the camera to see and be able to tell. So he was the Drake of baseball. And they don't think that we can command a field because that's the captain of the field. So when I got out there, even though I'm better than a lot of the guys that might have had the opportunity to catch, if you are 6'3" and you can barely hit, but you look the part, they're like, oh, well, he clearly has to be better, because of blah, blah, blah. So I never caught a game professionally in the 3 years that I played. Never caught. Yeah. Wow. Yep. And you're disposable when you're an outfielder, because outfielders are a dime a dozen. Everybody, somebody can run and catch the ball, but you got to hit. So, it's very political. That's the best way I can put it.
Fantastic.
I have a question for you. Now, you know how when you said how Philly and Chicago, what did Trump say? Bad things happen in Philly. Well, there's negative things that we've heard about Chicago. You filming Chicago and Christmas in Chicago, what highlights of your hometown did you take out of the movie that you want people to see? That, this is where I live. This is my hometown, Chicago,
Oh, man, the scenery, and shout out to the props department for really throwing down. There was not a lick of negativity or violence in this film, and they focused on really showing a Black family who owns a small business, a toy store that's going out of business, and they find a way to help all the small businesses in the local community by doing an ornament drive. And so people are literally looking for ornaments to have discounts and all of these things. And the film focuses on showing the community coming together to help the small businesses versus a larger entity trying to come up and swallow up all of the small business owners, the Black and the Latin community and all of these business owners. So they really hit that hard. And shout out to the director, because the director is also a strong believer in entrepreneurship. So when he wrote the film, he made sure he hit on a lot of the small businesses. So it really shows Chicago showing a Black family with unity and the community with unity, not division, but complete unity. And how can we help each other versus having that crab in the barrel mentality?
Yeah, I love that, because I think a lot of times we we've seen plenty of black films with the violence, the gun violence, the gangs, the drug dealing and all that stuff. So just to see something different, I think now we need to show more films like that, especially
Yes.
with our young adults who are getting into things that they shouldn't be. But when you see yourself depicted in films where it's like you're being depicted being violent and those things, it's like, yeah, it's negative. So what else are you going to do when you have nothing else to look up to? So I think that's awesome. But to piggyback off of your successful career in professional baseball, you also are the founder of Juiced Up Athletics. So tell us a little bit about that. I think that's amazing. That's phenomenal what you're doing with that.
Thank you. I started Juiced Up Athletics formally in November of 2018, and I started doing lessons in 2015. In that transitional period when I had the injury in pro ball, and I tell people all the time, when my first baseball lesson was when I was 24 years old, after I got released from my first professional baseball team in Texas. I had never had a baseball lesson until I was 24 years old.
Oh,
My mom, she didn't know where to take us, when we were coming up. And I'm sure there were people doing lessons, but we didn't know where to go.
Right.
So I wanted to figure out a way. I was like, man, when I got to college and I'm surrounded by my other counterparts who are like, baseball IQ is like 10 times better than mine. I know how to just play the game. They know how to think the game. I'm like, I was not taught this stuff. And I was like, so compared to them, I'm behind. And I'm a borderline perfectionist. And the moment you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to prove you wrong. So I was like, I hate not feeling like I'm one of the best players on a team. And I know that sounds vain, but when I came from my high school, I was the best at my school, the highest recruited, everything out of my high school. So when I get around my other teammates who I used to play against, and I'm like, man, these guys are like so much better than me. It's not because they're physically better than me. It's because they think this game a lot better than I do. And so when it came to doing instruction, I said, most kids can't afford it in our communities, not the prices that people are charging. So I started Juiced Up Athletics to make sure that kids can afford it in the local communities, and it was a much more affordable price compared to a lot of instructors out there. So when I started it, I never thought I was going to be an instructor. I was so stuck on being a professional baseball player that was never in the cards. And thank God for my mentor and the guy who was my instructor, Coach Skip. He's the one who actually was like, Julian, you should start doing lessons. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm going to the league. Like, what? I'm about to get back in. And he's like, you getting older, and you got the injury, so you got to start thinking about the plan B. And he put a perspective in my mind, and I still use it to this day. He was like, so you can be a professional, you can be a major leaguer, possibly get there, or you can develop and pour into multiple potential Major League Baseball players. And I was like, that make a little bit of sense. So my ego went down a little bit. But that when I realized that, hey, somebody turns 21 every day, and somebody turns 17 in the Dominican Republic, they gonna pick them up any day, for much cheaper. I was like, I ain't making no money in minor league baseball because you don't really make no money. But I was like, man, can I do this as a career? And I started off with one client, and that client became my guinea pig. And you fast forward now, I've been doing it 9 years, and I've worked with thousands of baseball and softball players. I'm one of the top baseball and softball catching instructors in the Chicagoland / Northwest Indiana area. And I got people that travel as far as an hour and a half just to come do a 30-minute lesson.